welcome to another episode of the Edmonds Mom's Room podcast. I'm the host, Dr. Allison Felt, and owner of Body Motion Physical Therapy, located in downtown Edmonds, Washington. So this podcast is me this week. So just me, no one we're interviewing. And I thought I would hop on because I get this question a lot, and I've gotten inundated with these questions multiple times in the last few weeks. So I thought I would just make a podcast about it. A lot of people are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. A lot of people reach out asking me how I started the business, where I came from, and what it looked like. And so I just thought I would share my journey with everybody listening here, whether you want to have a business to help improve your life, whether you want to have a business to just be able to, have some extra income. Maybe it's a side job or a side business, but maybe you want to change your family's standard of living and standard ways of being, and you think that you have a great business idea and want to make it come true. I am excited to talk some business and really where I came from and how Body Motion came to be. The last stat that I saw is 10% of 10% of Americans are business owners. And this is pretty high compared to other countries. A lot of those businesses ended up going out of business within the first 10 years. And so I think they say that 4% of businesses last longer than 10 years. Don't quote me on that, but that's about what it is. So a lot of times we go into business thinking we just want to create a job for ourselves. Maybe you want it to be your main source of income, whatever that is for you. But for me, I was working in a physical therapy clinic. It was a lovely clinic. It was a fast-paced clinic. I was seeing a lot of patients a day, upwards of 20 patients a day. And that's draining and tiring. And I was also a pelvic floor therapist. So it's hard to treat the pelvic floor and really holistically treat the whole body with time constraints that are limited in those fast-paced, busy clinics. So I loved it there. I thought maybe my future was going to be with that company and maybe be able to open a clinic through them. And I was really, really passionate about women's health. I still am today, hence Body Motion Physical Therapy. And I was really passionate about treating orthopedic patients. So if you know anything about me, I grew up playing soccer, hockey, and softball. My main sport was hockey. I played in college. And when I got done, I wanted to work with hockey players and really just athletes in general. And I think that's a common physical therapist dream. And it definitely was mine. But when I was in college, I found out that there are these certain types of physical therapists that help people that pee their pants. And when I heard this during a lecture, it sparked my interest. Growing up, I played boys hockey, and every time I got hit, I would pee my pants. I would leak a little bit. During sprints, during softball, I would pee my pants a little bit. And I was always super embarrassed about it. And especially on the hockey team, because obviously I'm the only girl. I felt like my gear smelled like pee. I mean, hockey gear stinks anyways. But this was a whole level of embarrassment, being an only girl and like leaking every time you take a hit. That's just, it's not something you want to experience. But, I was embarrassed. I didn't tell anybody this stuff. I kind of was just like, I guess I have, this is the way it is. I've heard moms talk about this happening, but I didn't I'm too young for that. So who knows what's wrong with me? And I just kind of ignored it. And then when I was sitting in a lecture one day, I found out that there was actually something you could do about it. And that was through pelvic health, physical therapy. And it just became like a calling. I didn't really want to go that route because I was so in love with the sports and orthopedic side of physical therapy that it was hard to think that I was going to transition to like helping people with their super private, sensitive parts. And I was scared of vaginas. I was scared of all those areas, that are so sensitive. And I had no confidence in going into that area. So there was this hesitation to go that route. But I was super interested. And so I did start shadowing a women's health physical therapist, and her name was Terry Elliott Burke. And she was just a lovely human. She owned a clinic in Illinois called Women's Physical Therapy. So it was WOMEN's, because she treated women and men. And I learned so much from her. And then through her, I also had I ended up having my own independent study, because it wasn't something that they taught in PT school. And then I ended up with a clinical rotation in specializing in women's health. And that is really where I saw where the power of treating this area can change lives. I saw women that were pregnant healing, like feeling amazing during their pregnancy and like really preparing their bodies for birth. I saw postpartum women healing their bodies. And, it was still a lot of pain though. So the emphasis wasn't on preparing for birth. The emphasis was on, okay, I have pubic symphysis pain. I'm going to treat that pain. They're going to go to the clinic and treat that pain, and it would go away and they'd feel better throughout their pregnancy. But, and so it was at that point I was like, this is really cool stuff, but I'm still in love with sports. And I just can't imagine not being a sports physical therapist. So I went on to have a bunch of orthopedic sports clinicals. And then when I graduated, I took a job at an outpatient orthopedic clinic, and I was loving treating the sports patients. And I also started a women's health program there. And that was intimidating. It was so intimidating to think that I was just going to do this on my own. I had amazing, excellent mentorship, and I couldn't imagine not having mentorship. And so I was grateful for that piece. I was grateful for the opportunity to start my own program. And so I started the women's health program, and I loved it. But having a women's health program in a busy sports orthopedic clinic that sees joint replacements to youth athletes to anything in between, it was just not ideal for some of these pelvic patients, or some, treating pelvic floor. If you're going to a pelvic floor therapist, sometimes there's intravaginal work that occurs. So that's inside the vagina. And when that happens, like, to be in a clinic that you can hear someone throwing a basketball against the wall outside the door that you're getting treatment, it's just not that comfortable. So I decided, after long hard thought, I really loved the company I worked for. They were absolutely amazing. But I just decided that I was going to have to do this on my own. I was going to have to create my own entity so I could really truly establish the kind of care that I wanted to establish, and not be bogged down by all these other people's ways of doing things. And so that's where I decided, after 3 years away from that clinic, I had a couple kids and was working home health at the time. So that is where you go into people's houses and you treat people that are just out of the hospital or out of a skilled nursing facility, and you give them therapy. Sometimes they'll have like a hip replacement. Sometimes they'll be recovering from pneumonia, and you're helping them get moving in their house. So it was a really different type of physical therapy. And at the time, I was honestly just doing it because it was the most flexible work I could do with 2 young kids. So I had 2 kids under 2. And so I did that. And when I look back, and really when I started Body Motion, what I was learning is that that experience, that home health experience, just solidified everything I wanted to change in America. Because when you age, and you age at home or in an assisted living facility, I would go into assisted livings as well. When you're doing all of this, you see what it's like to get older. You see what it could be like when you're 70, 80, 90, or 100 even. And it kind of freaks you out. It's a glimpse into the future. And what I was seeing is, we're treating this person for a knee replacement, but they're wearing a diaper. And, oh, by the way, they spend most of the day in the wheelchair. We're treating this person for let's say also they have Alzheimer's and they had a setback and now we're just trying to get them moving again. And they're in a diaper because they're pooping their pants. And so much of every single client you saw, I would say it was 100% of the clients, I don't know one that wasn't, had some form of either urinary or fecal incontinence or severe constipation due to all the med interactions, which caused many other problems. And so when I started to see this and I really got an in-depth look at what it was like to get old in America, it gave me the fuel to really reflect on like, okay, how can we avoid some of this? How can we, like, what will change? How could we change this? So I can be a fit, fancy 80-year-old, running down the street or do whatever I want to do, retire and actually enjoy it, And so I started to reflect on this and it helped me so much because I started to tie what I had seen in all my orthopedic experience. So, treating knee replacements and treating athletes. And I was able to really find what I think is like the biggest missing link is that people, after they have babies, they don't necessarily restore their core after they give birth. So when you have this happening and you have, someone who just carried a baby for 10 months, 9 to 10 months, has a delivery, however that baby comes out of your body and then goes back to living their daily lives, that leaves a whole hole in your body. And even if you think you go back to the gym and you're doing all the right things, or if you I don't know, you go to Pilates, so you think your core is really strong, there's this whole piece of the core called your pelvic floor that if that's not healed, if there's scar tissue there, or if there's scar tissue in your abdominal wall, like say after an abdominal surgery, your core is limited. Like your core function is impacted massively. And when that happens, your body develops compensations because the body is absolutely beautiful at compensating. So, you're not as strong. So maybe you just start standing on one leg more than the other. And maybe that hip starts to go up higher. So then the core can't fire even well because of that compensation. And 10 years later, you notice that you start to pee your pants. But all the other moms in town are peeing their pants, so you think that's okay. And then another 5 years after that, you're really having a lot of knee pain. You're in and out of physical therapy. Finally, your hip starts to hurt, so you just decide to get a knee replacement and feel better. But that hip got worn out when you were having such bad knee pain because you were putting so much weight on the other leg that you end up, wearing out that joint. Well, all along, you just never got to heal your pelvic floor after birth, and you ended up, compensating and developing all these negative patterns that if you were just given the opportunity and the tools to heal your body, your pelvic floor and your core after you delivered babies, we wouldn't be ending up in this soliloquy of events that happens here in America. And so, I talk about the joint replacements, and then you take it even farther, and then we're looking at all these nursing homes where every single woman is in diapers. Every single one of them is in diapers because they, or pads, because they're peeing themselves or leaking, and that is just considered normal. And the problem is, once we get to the nursing home stage, there's already so many other problems that thinking we're going to heal the pelvic floor is just so far down on the list. These people are having, they're focusing on their heart problems. They're focusing on these other things happening that the peeing is like insignificant. They've had that their whole life. But that peeing is the red flag that says, when you're 40 or 30, that says, hey, like I should get help and I should, start now. So this doesn't persist and become, a chasing of joint replacements and a chasing of pain, leading to limited function and not being able to walk and move like you want to, not be able to get off the floor. And then, eventually leading to needing living dependently throughout life.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. You can find additional information about our website and how to book a free discovery visit, the link in the bio of this episode, You can also join our Body Motion Moms group on Facebook.
So I know that sounds scary, but that is what I started to put together. And that's really what led me down the path to open body motion physical therapy. So when I started body motion physical therapy, I still had this dream and desire and love for orthopedics and sports. And so I was seeing definitely, a good amount of triathletes, a good amount of athletes. And I started the business completely mobile. So not only are you hearing about my passion, but you're going to hear about how I started. I did not want to be a physical therapist treating mobily. So that means that you go to people's houses or offices and treat them. But I didn't want to have, a huge overhead of a clinic when I couldn't guarantee that what I was doing was going to be successful. There's always this fear that you can either decide to hold you back, right? Fear can hold us back, or we can conquer fear and just do it, right? Get over it, get over yourself, get over the fear, and just do it. Get something done, get something moving. And if it's not right, you can backtrack and go from there. So I started the clinic as a mobile physical therapy clinic. And I did this because I didn't want to go into a bunch of debt, really at all. I already had a ton of student loans. I didn't need to have more. And I also kept my job, and I switched to part-time for the home health agency, which was lovely and provided me to make still an income while I was starting my own business. And so as I started the business, I was getting more and more clients, and it was awesome. And I was learning how to market. I took some classes, and I really figured out how to speak to my customers, how to speak to people, and really show them the value of everything that we do here at Body Motion. But I ended up, still needing to figure out how I was going to change healthcare, how I was going to change, how I was truly going to impact the getting age in America problem. And so I ended up giving some talks about the importance of postpartum care and prenatal care, body care, at a local, it was called Bodies for Birth, and it was down in Fremont, and it was an amazing studio. And that's really how I got hooked into some birth professionals, some other, started seeing a lot more women's health patients. And from there, it's such a passion, and I believe it's just such a missing link in America's healthcare system that I just decided to switch the whole business, all of it, to just focusing on serving women during their pregnancy, through preconception, really. So before they get pregnant, during their pregnancy, preparing for birth and delivery, and recovery postpartum. Now, postpartum, once you're postpartum, you're always postpartum. So that can be forever. But I really, so that was the message. That's where I decided to focus everything. I was still treating mobily, and then I decided that I was not going to do that anymore, because secretly deep down I knew I wanted to have another baby, so a third baby. And I knew that this mobile practice maybe wasn't scalable on the way that I wanted it to be able to scale. So I knew if it was just me driving around in my car, I couldn't help as many people as if I was, in an office having people come to me. So I decided to rent an office, which I'm currently sitting in. And that office is located in downtown Edmonds. So I moved my business pretty north of Seattle, about by 20 minutes. So it was a little bit like starting over again, to be completely honest. And I still did home visits. I still worked in I was doing a couple days in the clinic and a couple days home visits. And then I finally, after 3 months in the new place, I hired an administrative assistant. So I think when I proposed the job, or marketed the job, I said client experience manager. And so this was another scary step. And I should also say, getting a physical location, putting your name on a building is scary, right? Because you're tied to a lease, you're tied to all this stuff. So you have to truly have faith that what you're doing is what you want to be doing and is going to be successful. And I was, and I am so passionate about what we do. And I was going to make this work no matter what. So, so that was just a comment on that, but I got a little distracted. So I'm talking about hiring my first person. And so it was the client experience manager, and she's actually still with me today. Her name is Devin, and she's just absolutely lovely. If you were part of this Body Motion family at all, you know her. And she really helped launch Body Motion in Edmonds and get an established community. And, you know, now we're helping people nationwide, which is pretty just unbelievable. You know, and having people travel to us from far away, it's almost unbelievable. It's just insane. So if I can say that word, but yeah, so it's just beautiful. And so from there, from hiring Devin, she really helped explode the practice. She was not just a client experience manager. This girl was a GM. She did my marketing. She helped with sales. She helped with finance. She helped with recording everything. She was just a beautiful part of this team and really kind of a do-it. She just could do everything. She was lovely like that. And so we were a great team, and she believed in the vision, and she has a great story herself. She grew up with her mom being disabled since childbirth and not being able to play with them, and, you know, just always being kind of sick and having medical issues. And, you know, she wanted different for every other mom. So they are moms, you know, so they can be there for their kids in a different way. And her story is beautiful, and you can check it out on some other of our social media platforms. But so Devin helped launch this practice, and we spent about a year. So she started in January, and then she started January 2019. And by the following January, we had brought on another physical therapist. And that was another huge, every hire, I think, gives you a fear sense. Every big decision you make in your life, really, regardless of whether you're a business owner, want to be a business owner, or just a human, when you're making decisions in life that you haven't made before, they're not that comfortable. And so when I went to hire a physical therapist, another provider, someone that I was going to pay more than I paid myself. When that's the case, you simply just, what's the word? You kind of have to get over yourself. You kind of have to do it once and fail, just to like know that you can, know that it's going to be okay, and kind of start to see that it actually could be kind of good, you know, for you and your lifestyle and whatever you're trying to build. And so we brought her on, and then COVID happened, the lovely, beautiful COVID. And so things shifted in everybody's lives, and I got to go a different direction. So I got to bring on a different physical therapist. And what I learned from my first hire as a provider, you know, hiring another provider, is it almost didn't matter if it didn't work out. I was going to, because this next time around, I was going to do things differently. I figured out how to train. So I got on a whole different routine of what I was going to have this provider be, how I was going to train them. And that, to this day, has really worked out in my favor. And so, you know, you kind of got to fail in order to succeed and move forward. So fail forward. You know, you hear all those quotes that are live and learn, but really, I can't even say it enough. You got to just make the decision, fight the fear, get over it, and keep moving. So, you know, and take the lessons where they are. So I got to get over that fear of hiring the first provider, failing with the first provider, and being able to bring on another. And that was just absolutely, you know, beautiful. And I've learned so much over this past year. And now we brought on another provider, and we also have another admin who is now doing a lot of the phone calls and front desk stuff. And Devin is still with me to this day, and she's really focused on the marketing now, and she's also the general manager of the business. So I have currently 4 employees, and 5 including myself. So there's 3 physical therapists. I'm still practicing a few days a week, and 2 administrative people. And so yeah, that's my story. That's what Body Motion is made of. That's how it came to be. There's been so many lessons along the way. And, maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, I just want to make a job. I don't need to hire providers or hire administrative assistants. And that's totally great. But I created this mission and this promise to myself that I would help 1 million moms. And once I help 1 million moms, I'm probably going to want to help 2 million moms. And so for me to get to that vision and really be able to change the standard of care in America, I wanted to expand. I also wanted to build this ship because I wanted to have another baby, and I wanted the business to be able to still help people while I was having another baby. And quite frankly, I wanted the business to be able to help me through really fertility. So help me through going, preconception, preparing my body for fertilization, preparing my body for pregnancy, and then helping me through pregnancy and helping me through postpartum. So right now I'm in the pregnancy phase with my third baby, and I've been getting treatment every single week, really preparing my body and pelvis, for the most optimal vaginal delivery. So that is where we're at. And we are definitely growing out of this space. I am not treating as much anymore as a physical therapist, but I am running the business and really trying to strategically make the next moves. I like to say that, when I'm in the treatment room, I get so fulfilled. I love helping people. But if I'm not flying the airplane and I'm just serving the nuts, then I am, I'm not keeping my eyes on the greater vision. I'm not being able to manage and train my people the way they need to be. So really for me, not treating as much, it's just allowing me to help more people. So I'm working equally as hard, if not harder. It's just that I'm working in a different capacity. And as I get closer to my delivery, I will, I'm going to treat less and less and continue to work because I absolutely love it. And I can't imagine this life without body motion and without treating. Without, having this business and this place that helps so many women. It's just incredible. Any day I get an email about someone having a vaginal delivery or being able to feel their best or sleeping without pain, or the list goes on, being able to have a VBAC, being able to get pregnant. I mean, these emails, they just light up my life. And it's absolutely worth every single fear that you have to get over in order to achieve where you want to be. So that's kind of the story. People ask it all the time, and now I'm going to be excited to be able to send them this podcast so they can really find out more about it. And where we're going is we're looking at moving in downtown Edmonds to a larger space so we can have a few more offerings and maybe another therapist join us. And where the goal is to build a healing house. So it will be a mom body motion healing house. There's no official name for it yet, but that healing house will definitely be a sanctuary for everyone to decompress and heal and feel their absolute best, so they're not ending up, 80 and in diapers in a wheelchair with bed sores. So, this is the vision, this is the mission, and I'm just so grateful for it. So thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope it was enlightening to you. And if you want to know more about the business aspect of things, I'm happy to share it, and just let us know, and we'll drop another episode about more specific stuff, whatever you want to know. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the story. All right, take care, guys.